afternoon, friends. How's everybody doing? Drop in the chat where you're joining us from. I am live from my standing desk that I've created in my bathroom at my mom's house in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We're so excited to have you all here for our second conversation in our leadership series. This one's going to be focused on apprenticeships and internships in a time of crisis. Hope everybody's washing their hands. Wow, India, Brooklyn, Philly, SF, shouting you all out. ATL, I see you. India, Motherland, Nairobi, Kenya panelists. That's so exciting. My name is Mitali Chakraborty. I am Chief of Staff to our President and CEO, Brenda Darden Wilkerson at anitab.org. What I wanted to let you all know is that we've got a chat going strong. Everybody's shouting themselves out where they're joining us from. So throughout the panel, please feel free to drop in questions and comments and resources. If you do have a question for our panelists, drop it directly into the Q&A, not necessarily the chat. We do have some of our amazing teammates from Anita B that are in the chat to encourage conversations and answer your questions. They'll put their initials just so you know that it's a direct response from Anita B. We'll have another one of these conversations next week, but without further ado, I'd like to bring up my colleague, our Vice President of Business Development and Partnership Success, to bring on the panelists. Go ahead, Robert. Robert, you're on mute, my friend.
It's the running joke. I can't believe it. Hi, I'm Robert Reed. Coming to you live from my living room in Los Angeles. Sometimes I'm in the kitchen. You know, you never know. Today I feel comfortable here. Welcome to everybody here. As Mitali said, I look after partnership success, business development, and marketing and communications for anitab.org. We're thrilled to have you here. Again, our second in our series of webinar of how we're all surviving and thriving and just getting through the days in this time of turmoil. Today's is going to focus on internships, apprenticeships, and returnships. So we're trying to really focus. We've got some great panelists that Brenda's going to introduce in just a moment. We're working to really drive these conversations to be about how we can be as useful to our mission as well as to our constituents as possible. So I'd love to hear from you on other opportunities or other topics that you think would be helpful. For example, next week, we're going to focus on small businesses and how that's impacting all of us, I think, whether you want to go to a restaurant, if you're opening your own business, if you're working, whatever that means now, I think the small business is something we're looking towards, and then probably followed by academia and what that means in the academic space, just given how every day brings new lessons and new regulations on what is and isn't happening. So I'll come back at the end just to wrap it up a bit, but without further ado, I want to introduce you to our president and CEO, Brenda Wilkerson, who's going to introduce our four fantastic panelists to talk to you today about internships, apprenticeships, and returnships. Over to you, Brenda.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you to everyone who's joined us today. So excited to see you here. Thanks for joining us from all over the world. And a special thanks and shout out to our great panelists who I'm going to introduce to you in just a second. I think more now than ever, it's important for us to stay connected, have these conversations, and talk about how we are solving the new challenges that, hey, even a month ago, we didn't know that we have. So I'm really excited to have leaders and partners on the line with us today to help us talk about this really important subject. So let me start out by introducing Vicki Mealer-Burke, who is the Vice President and is currently serving as the first Chief Diversity Officer for Qualcomm. Qualcomm is a pioneering partner and a brave funder of anitab.org, for which we're very grateful. Vicki is responsible for providing the vision and leadership and oversight for both internal and external agendas around diversity and inclusion. Welcome, Vicki.
Hey, Brenda, thanks.
Next, I'd like to introduce Terrance Bowman, who is Head of Global Technology Diversity Attraction, Communities and Inclusion Strategy for JPMorgan Chase. JPMorgan Chase is also a supporting partner of anitab.org. In addition to his executive skills, Terrance also has a strong software engineering and technology consulting background. He's skilled in such things as program and project management, business analysis and process redesign, and all around technological genius. So thank you for joining us, Terrance.
Thank you for having me.
Next, we have Ryan Carson. Ryan is founder and CEO of Treehouse, Inc. Treehouse is a 140,000 student online technology school with the mission to diversify the tech industry through accessible education and apprenticeship. Treehouse is our partner in apprenticeship initiatives, and we're actually going to roll those out this year. We're excited about that. Welcome.
So good to be here. Thank you.
And finally, Jennifer Scott, who is the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships for the Society of Wind Engineers. We know them as SWE. SWE is a membership organization with over 40,000 university and professional members globally. And Jennifer currently leads all development efforts at SWE. Thank you so much for joining us, Jennifer.
Thank you.
So let me just start off by saying a few things. 57 years ago this week, the National Equal Pay Day was established to symbolize how women continue to face obstacles in fair pay, representation, equitable treatment in the workplace, and investment in women-owned businesses. On average, American women must work 3 months into 2020 to earn what the average American man made in 2019. The timeline grows for women of color, with Black Women's Equal Pay Day set as August 13th, Native American women at October 1st, and Latinas October 29th. Now, adding on to these stats, the impact of COVID-19 on women in tech risks a step back during these times, to say the least. Now, we know times are difficult for businesses and other institutions, and we're all working towards a future that's unclear. That is why it's important that we address the imminent threat that the pandemic could have on the representation of women in the workforce. We must remain proactive and address the financial and representational impact women are about to face because of this crisis. Just last week at our Leading in the Time of Turmoil event, I called upon many of our partners to strive to keep their diversity numbers steady amid COVID-19 and to work hard to commit to their summer internship programs, if at all possible, as there are so many young people counting on these opportunities. Though companies have tough decisions to make, we believe it's important to keep an eye towards gender and racial diversity as they make their workforce decisions. One way that companies can keep and help is to safeguard opportunities such as internships and apprenticeships, which is our focus for today. So that's why I'm thrilled to talk with this great panel, and let's get to the discussion. So Terrance, I want to start with you. So first of all, how are you doing?
So I'm doing pretty well, all things considered. I'm settling into my new normal of working remotely 100%, and also homeschooling a fourth grader, a second grader, who happen to be two very inquisitive and active young boys. So keeping me on my toes.
Yeah, wonder where they got that from, right?
Their mother.
Let's go. Very good, good answer. So Terrance, could you tell us some of the things JPMorgan is doing to support new talent right now, especially incoming interns?
I think one of the key things is for us to do is trying to make sure that we let them first off know that we are first and foremost concerned about their safety and their well-being during these very challenging times, unprecedented times. Many of them have been coping with all types of things, right, that you might not be thinking about, such as being abruptly, forced to move off campuses, trying to navigate the online learning courses at their schools, their processes. Some are being, facing the decisions to do pass or fail while dealing with impacted family members due to COVID-19. The second thing we want to do is just reassure them that even in these times of uncertainty, that we will have an opportunity for them this summer. So we are going to be moving forward with our internships. They're going to take on a different form and shape, and we're figuring all of that out. But We're going to figure out, creative ways to virtualize some of these offerings and make sure that they still have the same opportunity as they would have to, qualify for a return internship or a full-time offer after graduation. And I know for me personally, I'm going the extra mile to really reach out to many of those candidates personally, to just humanize, what we're all going through and just to ensure that they're doing well.
That's awesome. And we're really grateful to hear all of those amazing things. And thank you for setting a great example for others to follow.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to hear from you, Vicki. What can you share about what's going on at Qualcomm?
Yeah, similar. Thanks, Brenda. It's great to be here. And similar to what Terrance was saying, first and foremost for our existing employees and our employees to be, we're just really trying to reach out, make sure that they know their health and safety is our number one priority, but also give them the reassurance that, if they've accepted an offer to come this summer and be an intern, that we're standing behind that offer. And we've really reached out to all of our interns and had a personal discussion with them and make sure that they know they're in the midst of maybe finishing a semester. And so they're not worried that if the class goes pass fail, like all of a sudden we're going to rescind an internship. 2 weeks ago, we moved to an all remote new hire orientation. So we're continuing to hire and we want to make sure that we don't lose any top talent during this situation. So that experience for us, shipping computers, shipping Wi-Fi devices if need be, to get to continue our talent flow is really just gonna blend right into what we do with our interns. We have interns around the world, and so all of our global areas might be on a slightly different timeline, but we're creating programs right now to try to simulate the same great on-campus experience that they would have had and maybe still will, we don't know. But regardless of whether the whole thing is remote or whether part of it, they get to come back to some of our campuses, we're trying to make sure that they're prepared, that their leaders here are prepared. We've got a bunch of great ideas that we can get to later. But first and foremost, we're reaching out, we're making sure that all of our new employees and our interns know that we want them and we want to have a great experience, not only for them to experience Qualcomm, but for us to do the things that we promise to do in an internship, which is mentorship and learning and expanding all their talents and really making sure they get something great out of the experience. So it'll be fun and it'll be very interesting to see how this works.
Yeah, I like the word interesting, and I really like all of the things that you touched on, because it's not just the loss of income that's at stake for many of these students, which is so important for most students, but it's the loss of those experiences that really contribute to their future work efforts and opportunities. So really grateful for all of that creativity. So and we're learning so much, as you said, as we
Right.
keep going, because we don't really know what's going to happen. So
Right.
Ryan, can you add to this conversation? I know you can. Ryan from Treehouse.
Yeah, thanks. As a CEO, I am seeing some difficult things right now with my fellow CEOs. We're having very blunt conversations. I'm seeing a lot of CEOs get prepared for layoffs. It's scary. I just want to acknowledge that there's a reality here where a lot of companies are going to start laying folks off. And I know that's hard to talk about, but I am hearing it. Thankfully at Treehouse, we're okay. But I just want to call it out that, yeah, that's something that people are going to be dealing with. Now, there are a lot of companies that are large enough or are actually growing during the pandemic that they're going to be hiring. So I just want to call out, for instance, Verizon is one of our longest standing apprenticeship partners. They're continuing apprenticeship. They're hiring 30 apprentices. Like, there's some good things happening with large companies who are not being affected by the pandemic. And so I would encourage people to start setting their sights on companies that are actually benefiting from this, communication companies, infrastructure companies, core service companies that are actually hiring. I think those companies now are going to actually experience a talent shortage, and apprenticeship is a wonderful or returnship is a wonderful way to deal with that. So pick your companies. If you're watching this, target companies that are going to be growing right now, and put your focus there.
Yeah, that's great. And especially speaking to the students who we know are joining us today, to be able to provide resources to them about where they can go and ideas are really going to be important. And so, Jennifer, I know you deal with students all the time. What can you add to this conversation around opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Everyone said so many wonderful things. It's hard to build upon that, but I really do want to encourage folks. I am seeing a lot of our corporate partners, organizational partners, expanding, right? Medicare, the medical field and the healthcare fields, right? Those are expanding in many different engineering and tech disciplines. They're partners with us on return to work programs, so they're looking for both professionals and interns. So great place to put your eyes on when you're looking for specific organizations to work for or work with. I will say at SWE, we also, besides my role in working with our corporate and organizational partners, we obviously have our 40,000 members at the heart of what we do, right? And so we're focused on getting messaging out to them and webinars on demand, really improving those skills, both soft skills, mental skills, and professional skills. And I did share a bunch of links to free resources, so hopefully y'all get that later to keep your mind going. And then also at SWE, having learned from our partners that they are continuing their internships this summer, even some of the stodgiest of engineering organizations that I won't name, are committed to continuing their program during the summer, but really have no idea how they're going to do it. So there is some uncertainty out there. They're going to be learning as they're onboarding some new talent. But what we're doing at SWE as well is we've set up our career center with a flag. If you're looking for a 2020 internship, upload your resume, flag the filter, and we're going to be promoting it to all of our organizational partners so folks can find the talent. We also learned, because we had to postpone a few of our in-person events this spring, and some of our partners have asked, where do we find the talent? We didn't get to go to this conference to hire, and so we're trying to pair folks together.
That's excellent, because the opportunities are still out there and the need, of course, to take advantage of those opportunities, that hasn't changed at all. So that's great to hear all of those things that SWE is doing. So Vicki, here's an interesting question. How do you think the diversity and inclusion initiative in the industry will fare if internships and apprenticeships aren't safeguarded? And on the flip side of that, how do you think it will progress if they are?
Yeah, it's a great question. Of course, none of us have a crystal ball. So I can speak from our perspective at Qualcomm, where we focus a lot on our new grads and our interns for high percentage of diverse candidates coming in through those programs. So that keeping that static for us is very important. It is a source of a ton of great diverse resources for us. If they shut down, it will be, I think, harder because for us, in our experience, experienced hires, getting diversity in through experienced hires, we still go all out and try to do it, but it's harder than trying to get it at the new grad. So keeping the new grads, keeping the interns involved and exposed to all of our companies, I think really, really important. And we're, as a company, we're lucky. I know Ryan mentioned lots of companies are gonna just unfortunately have to go through layoffs because there's a dip, hopefully it's temporary dip in their business. Our technology companies right now, for the most part, are in a pretty good position where we can continue a lot of development, remotely and through all of our online tools. So it's like we just sent out a blast to all of our university partners, not for interns. Our interns usually get locked up by about January, but just for new grads. And we sent a special activity code just saying, hey, any new grads that are still looking for jobs, apply, and we got hundreds of applications just like in the last 4 or 5 days. So we're going to continue to be leaning in and looking for great available talent. And I'm hopeful that as many companies that are able to do that will continue to do that. It is an investment. But on the other hand, if we don't relocate, we have about 1,200 interns around the world, and a high majority are relocated and we house them. We might actually have some savings if it's all remote, and we're going to look to see where we can reinvest and make our programs even more robust. So that's from our perspective, that's kind of what I see the landscape as.
Yeah, that's great. When you think about crises, first, we react to them and we have to make some hard decisions, but then it becomes an opportunity for us to think of things in a different way than we ever have before. So really understanding that there's an opportunity to invest more because there are certain costs that won't be incurred. That's a great way of, having innovative thinking around this challenge. So Ryan, you mentioned earlier that you see some companies, you mentioned some of the challenges that we're all aware that companies are going through right now. And with some of the companies that you're dealing with, can you share any of the strategies that they might be using to maintain their commitments, even though times are really challenging now?
Well, there's good news. We actually saw Intuit lean in and ask to do apprenticeships through our partnership with the Need to Be. Really excited about that. We're seeing other companies like Niantic and Toast and MailChimp and others continue to do apprenticeship even during the pandemic. So I just want to encourage everybody, this is still happening. There are still opportunities. I think the smart companies understand that they still need to lean on exciting new methods to diversify their team, like apprenticeship. So we're seeing people continue to stick to that strategy and know that that's a powerful way for them to diversify their incoming candidates. And Brenda and I, you've talked about this with me a lot. I mean, we think that apprenticeship is going to be one of the key keys for coming forward, and that's not going to change. So I'm hopeful companies will stick to it.
Yeah, of course, we're really excited. Apprenticeship is an age-old, time-tested strategy. And we know that, especially now, it becomes even more of a strategy that we could focus on to grow talent, to look at talent in a different way. And I'm excited about the project that we're working on, not just for younger talent, but for folks who are looking to change careers and switch over to tech and bring some of the experiences they have other places, but to learn the tech. And an apprenticeship is a great way to do that. So yes, it's a very exciting opportunity. So I'm going to throw this out to everyone. We all work in diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's very impactful on developing the tech workforce. What are some of the issues of equity that we might foresee in taking internships, apprenticeships, returnships online? And how would you want companies to handle these issues?
Hey, Brenda,
Well, I'll start because it's, oops, go ahead, Terrance.
Oh, sure. So one of the things I just wanted to jump in and say is that we really have to be mindful of everyone's situation because it is a very unique one for every single intern and apprentice coming in because, right, they're coming, technically they would come into our site, all at once, but now we're dealing in a remote world potentially. So, some students may not even have internet access at their home or a working, a viable device, right? If they're a software engineer to code, adequately, in a work from home model. So we owe it to each and every individual to understand like their landscape and how they're going to be able to be productive in those roles over the summer.
Really critical, right? Because we even see students challenged right now in continuing to finish out the rest of their semester or quarters if they don't have internet access at home. So really critical thing for us to think about. Who else?
I was really going to say the same thing about equity and providing access to computers and technology and bandwidth. I've run across folks who go to a common area to use bandwidth, and now the common area has been closed. And And so what do you do with that as an employer, right? Do you divert supplies? You do. So you have to think about computers and screens and monitors and devices, and do you pay for them or do you offer a stipend? But with the folks we're talking about, women and underrepresented groups, you know, we're really going to have to think about how we can support this virtual experience that companies aren't really prepared to enter yet fully. So that's, I think, my number one there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I could, so I mentioned that we changed our regular new employee experience to virtual. And so we do that every other Monday. And so in smaller chunks, we're mailing out devices, and we're mailing out MiFi devices if need be. We want all of our employees working on devices that, you know, have our software on them. So that is just going to then be really critical that we get that right. And now we'll expand that through the interns. So we don't feel like we should have any equity issues. You know, I think one of the things that I will build on what Terrance was saying is we also can't assume if the intern is not on our campus that that they're going to have a normal working day, that they might be helping to take care of brothers and sisters and make sure that they're still getting their studies. So, you know, one of the things that we've started doing, and we've always had these resources, but now they're just kind of being pushed to the forefront, is, you know, how to work from home tips, how to have a good relationship with your boss, or how to find a mentor if you're not in the same building. And so part of the responsibility that I have at Qualcomm is talent development. And, you know, we had a whole host of these resources, and then all of a sudden we needed them, like everybody needed them all at once. And so that's going to be part of our new onboarding process with our interns, to give them some time and actually teach virtual classrooms. Our company right now is using Microsoft Teams, and we were not a big Teams. We were getting to Teams, but it's kind of accelerated. So we'll get our interns up on those and have, you know, group learnings, and just some fun activities too, to create those relationships and do that networking. That's a natural part of a normal internship that you get when you're, you know, in physical proximity.
Yeah, so, and you know, the one thing I want to say to that is what we're going to learn is that networking is going to take on a whole new dimension than it has in the past, right? And I think one of the positives of having it be virtual is we're actually going to develop stronger relationships despite distance than we've done in the past, right? You know, people are on from all over the world here. We're having conversations with each other from all over the world during the week. Technology has really accelerated our ability to connect together. And I think it's going to really be fun to see how work-life balance is also impacted during this time. You know, in the past, and when I was a technologist, it was really a big thing to not talk about your family. And maybe I'm talking about the old days. You know, you didn't bring pictures of your kids because that meant that you weren't focused. And now this crisis has forced us all to be at home. Kids are running around. You know, it's like the family. It's normal, right, to have a work life and a family life. And so I think that's one of the benefits that we'll gain from going through this experience. So, but let me just throw that back out to, does anybody else want to contribute to that conversation? Go ahead, Ryan.
I just want to add a little thing about networking. It's more strategic now, and using the video. It's not an email and connecting, you know, just via email. Now you set up a video chat, and it's limited time, and it's very strategic when you're thinking about your internship experience and who's managing your internship. You know, so setting that up with your manager and your colleagues, but then your manager having to set it up between you and other folks and other business lines within the company. So you're getting that network experience virtually.
Very true. Very true. And Ryan, you were going to say?
Yeah. So that you talk a lot about intersectionality, and I feel like we're seeing parenthood become, you know, a key part of intersectionality now, where we're living in a world now where parents have kids. I mean, Terrance was talking about this. I literally have kids at home that have to homeschool now, And because of equity issues, the public schooling, can't provide online learning, and you have two parents that are working, and it is a real problem. And so we instituted a policy, and a lot of companies are doing this, and I hope more people do this. We're calling it flexible working, where we say, we expect now to block your calendar and say that you are doing childcare during the day, and we do not expect you to make up that time at night or in the morning. This is a reality. And I think that's a key equity issue. Somehow expecting that people are going to literally take care of their kids at home and somehow work is a fantasy, right? So, and this goes to apprentices who are learning. I mean, we're in a world now where, okay, if you're learning online and you're at home and you have kids, you have the same issue. So I'm hopeful we're moving to a model where we actually become integrated work life. And I think we're being forced to, because we're literally staring into people's homes now. And that's a good thing. So hopefully this will go that direction.
Yeah, and if I could venture to say it might be interesting that some of this also got accelerated because both men and women are at home. Is that okay for me to say that? Right? As long as it was really our responsibility as women, and we just did it with grace, and like the duck up top, calm, and underneath going furiously. It was status quo, but there's always some good things to come out of challenges, and I think this is one of them. So yeah.
I'll just add, from a diversity and inclusion standpoint, I think getting to see in a little bit more of people as they really are is really helps that acceptance and that inclusion. And it's men and women, and my colleagues at the vice president level are sitting in Teams meetings feeding infants, and and moms have kids crawling all over them, and it just makes us real. And I think to a certain extent, it gives us all that grace that everybody wants to say that these are outstanding contributors to our company, and look at everything else that they do.
That's right.
And to me, it kind of rises and helps everyone understand that we're all real people. And even if, as Brenda was saying, you tried to act like the duck, everyone really knew that wasn't happening. And now we can see it up close and personal. But you know what? Like, work's still getting done. Great productivity is still happening. Projects are getting completed. And I think it's teaching our, dare I say, like old school leaders that really wanted to see people at a certain time every day, sitting in an office or at their workstation. I think it's teaching them all at once that people will still get their job done, even if they're not, coming into a traditional, office environment. So, we started trying to talk about silver linings, because everything is so, kind of depressing and scary right now. And so, what are some silver linings that might come out of this? I'm hopeful that that's one, is a forcing function to have wider acceptance to all kinds of work situations. And time isn't 9 to 5 and is sitting in a traditional building. So that might be a silver lining. We're hopeful.
Yeah, or coming dressed in a certain way. So yeah, it's a total paradigm shift. And I think you're mentioning some of the very good things to come out of this experience. So I hope everyone that's online is hearing these amazing leaders talk some truths that are, just out of what we've been living this life for a couple of weeks. And so thank you guys for making these types of adjustments so quickly. So I want to ask the next question. I want to start with you, Terrance. What would you recommend the students or participants in any of these programs, like apprenticeships or who are seeking reentry into technical careers? What would you recommend that they do during this unexpected downturn around learning and their development?
Yeah, so I would really recommend that all the students out there that are on the line today really leverage this unexpected time to really seek out some online learning platforms to grow your skills, because at the end of all of this, we are still going to be, as employers, looking for people who are highly competent, highly skilled technically. And if you're into software engineering, there's tons of platforms out there like Treehouse, LeetCode, HackerRank, Code Academy, Udemy, Code Wars. Like, if you really want to hone those skills, like, now is the time to develop a passion project. And if it's something that is going to end the pandemic or help people in crisis, and you can get behind that from a software engineering perspective, what a great story that is in your next interview for a full-time position or an internship for next summer, to really leverage this time to really gain some skills. And in fact, I would highly suggest that even some of us on the call who have been in our careers for several years, that, take some of this time to really dive into some of those skills that you wanted to learn, and really take the time to, build skills in a meaningful way.
Or that have gone dull, right?
Right.
Thank you. What about you, Jennifer? What would you suggest?
I want to build on some of the sites that Terrance mentioned. One that my team and I are using, it's freecodecamp.org. And if you search, here are the 450 Ivy League courses you can do for free. We're all doing one. You could pick something that is coding or Python or, related, or you could pick something that's more business focused, finance, widen your knowledge, organizational development. I think those are some of the skills that you can supplement with the work you're doing now. And, for folks who are getting, I don't want to say rejection emails or calls, but, it's an opportunity to push back and say, is there a project I could work on? Maybe the internship isn't fully going to happen, but is there a project that I can work on? And we say that a lot with the return to work folks as well. Maybe you don't trust me, I've been out of the workforce for so long, but is there a project I could work on and prove to you that this is, what I can do? And then it's something that you all could add to your resume. But definitely at SWE too, we have a leadership competency model. So there's ways to test your skills and see where all of us might need some help. I use that as well. No one's perfect. Yeah, so it's a great opportunity to focus on yourself, not only with education, but, also mental breaks as well.
Yeah, mental breaks. We like that. Thanks for bringing that up. So Ryan, yes, you have an online training program. Talk to us about how people could do more during this time to help themselves get prepared.
Yeah, thank you. And Terrance, thanks for the shout out. I appreciate that, man. Of course, yes, Treehouse is an online school. We've been doing this for 10 years, taught 650,000 people how to code and how to do UX. So yeah, please check it out. That's great. But there's a lot of other resources that are great too. I'm a big fan of Free Code Camp. It's a wonderful program. Quincy, the founder, is an awesome person. I think there's a lot of soft skills that are so important right now. I think I would focus a lot on communication, written and video. How do you present on a Zoom call? How do you light yourself well? How do you sound right? There's some kind of basic stuff on that. I think the project-based idea that Jennifer was talking about is really smart. If you can build something that then you can show people when the pandemic is over, I think that's a powerful thing to do. It really is going to become more and more about what you can do. I think everyone understands education has been disrupted, traditional paths have been disrupted. What can you do? Can you jump on a Zoom call and show me your work and explain how you built it? I think that's a world we're moving to, which is great, but just start moving there now.
Yeah, that's excellent. And Vicki, I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, exactly the same. If there's companies or there's jobs that you think you want to look at what those minimum quals are. And if it's Python or something that you don't have in your repertoire, jump on in one of these online classes and then, yeah, be able to show your work. And I think, in this day and age, everyone's looking for, some way to apply what they know to solving a problem for the company. And, so just continue to be creative and, continue to learn. We've got more of our own employees taking some of these classes and, it's not that they're not working, but we all have just more free time because we can't go anywhere. And so, even our own full-time employees are investing in themselves. And I think that's just a trait that is not specific to students or people entering. It's all throughout your whole career. So yeah, utilize a lot of these resources. There's just so many great resources out there now. So take advantage.
Absolutely. And I think it's, you know, to your point, Vicki, it's a time for us to strengthen that self-improvement muscle, right? I think we all do a little bit of it, and many times it gets pushed to the side because we just don't have time. And those of us who are not in the car commuting back and forth to work now, we can really kind of salvage some of that extra time to reinvest in ourselves at this time. So thanks to everybody. I want to give the folks online an opportunity to ask some questions. So over to you, Mitali.
Hello, everybody. And if you didn't know, we've got a crazy chat going on in a great way. People are connecting to each other, asking wonderful questions. One of the first ones that came in 3 times, actually is, can you explain, I'm going to throw this one to you, Ryan, the difference between an internship and apprenticeship, and what does that mean?
You bet. Very clearly, an apprenticeship leads to a job. An internship is a short-term experience that may or may not convert. Really simple, really straightforward.
Awesome. And I'm going to throw this question to you, Vicki. A lot of people are anxious about starting their internships in this virtual environment. What is the onboarding experience going to look like for Qualcomm, and any tips to some of your colleagues that are on the line also on how to make that onboarding process inclusive?
Yeah, sure. And again, like we're in the middle of this, and we're kind of you know, we'll adjust as we can, but we're using Teams, as I said. We're shipping devices. We're for, you know, in fact, our very first new employee experience, because it was Teams and it was virtual. Our CEO, Steve Mollenkopf, like popped in just to say hello. We're happy you're here. Like that would never happen in our normal environment. So, you know, what a great experience for that set of new employees. With our interns, we've got this concept that we're going to try, which they're kind of modeling it after like a homeroom. So people get bundled into groups of maybe 12 or 15 with a leader who is kind of their constant touch base. Like, how are we doing? Has everyone gotten through this? And really paying close attention, which normally we would just have interns out with their hiring managers or their leaders, and their experiences may vary depending on how engaged those leaders are. Most of our leaders that take interns are very engaged, but this homeroom concept, we're hoping we can do. We're going to try virtual hackathons. We're going to try virtual competitions and games, and they've got some ideas about how to do scavenger hunt and some of our online resources, just to see if you find little treasures that we're putting out there. So not all of those will work, but one of the great things about an internship is the ability to interact with some of our senior engineers and some folks that have really had names out there. So we'll be doing those kind of huddles. We just may be doing them virtually. And again, one of the things that when interns come to San Diego, which is where our corporate headquarters are, every Saturday we give the interns free surfing lessons. So if they want to get up on a Saturday morning and go to the beach, we provide them, so I was asking, like, how are you guys going to do free surfing lessons virtually? And of course, no one has a good, so some things just aren't going to be replicated, I guess is the idea. But again, we're gonna try to be as creative as we possibly can. And I think that that homeroom idea has a lot of, it's really resonating with people. Like, somebody's in charge of 10 or 12 interns and really is going to make sure that they understand their personal situation and can help them get more technology if they need it, or more connections. And so those are a couple of the things that we're going to try.
Amazing. Thank you, Vicki. I'm just going to throw this question out to everybody. This came in a couple times. How do you deal with imposter syndrome? I think we have a lot of young people. I mean, I struggle with it myself. So I'd love to hear if anybody has some feedback to those that are struggling with that.
I don't have any specific feedback, but we do have lots of webinars on that. I think imposter syndrome is real. It's for men, it's for women, students, professionals, everyone at all ages, and it's very individual depending on who you are. So definitely check out some of the trainings that are online. Google imposter syndrome, and you'll see I can't remember her name, there's a guru of it. And at SWE, we definitely have some webinars and some materials on taking steps to overcome it.
I'll give it a shot.
Go ahead, Brenda.
So, yeah, you know, as Jennifer said, everybody deals with it. And I think it's one of those opportunities for you to do some really tough self-talk to yourself. And talk about how you don't want to miss an opportunity, because that's what imposter syndrome really can cause you to do. I've told this story to some people. I'm gonna go ahead and be really honest and share this story with you guys. When this opportunity for my current job as CEO of Anita B came along, the recruiter reached out to me, and it took me 2 months to respond. 2 months. While I argued about, I could possibly do that. Why would they think I could do that? Okay, right? Pow. And, you know, luckily I shared with family members and I shared with colleagues, and they really were helpful during that time to encourage me to understand where I had skills and experiences that were applicable and to go for it. But it's sometimes one step forward and one step back. There's no magic bullet. When I finally started talking to the recruiter, I argued with the recruiter before I gave the recruiter my resume. And finally I said, fine, here's the resume. He'll know then that I'm not the right one. So it's an imperfect experience, right? So just be patient with yourself, but also understand that it's okay to fail. If you put yourself out there and it doesn't work, that doesn't mean anything other than that time didn't work. I think that's what fuels a lot of imposter syndrome. We think that failure is going to be terminal, and it's not. So I thank you for that question, and just want to encourage you that everybody goes through it and everybody can get through it. Ryan.
Yeah, Brenda, thanks for saying that. You know, I, as a CEO, I also experienced massive imposter syndrome, and as a white man, you know, who, you know, we like presume like I know what I'm doing, and I feel like I know what I'm doing. I don't, and I feel that all the time. And I was talking to my mom once, and I said, you know, I just feel like I've made so many mistakes as a CEO, you know, and maybe I'm not good at this. And she said, do you talk to your kids like that? And I said, no, like that would be mean, you know? And she said, well, why are you talking to yourself like that? Stop it. And it was a reminder, like we can be so cruel to ourselves. And everybody does it. And I would just encourage you to try, if you catch yourself being cruel to yourself and saying you don't belong, just remember you'd never talk to your loved ones that way. And that might help.
And one thing I just want to add to the conversation is the fact that you got the internship or the apprenticeship means that you belong there, right? There's nothing that happens on day one that says all of a sudden you now don't belong in the same room with someone who graduated from a different university or maybe a different race or a gender or something else. Like, it is the self-talk that gets in the way, and it's a matter of how you represent yourself during conversations with yourself. And don't think of it as being a syndrome, right? Because that sounds very serious long-term. Think about it as just being nervousness. You're nervous about starting a new position, about starting a new job, but you're going to crush it. You already aced the interview, you aced the coding exam. You are an intern, and your job is to get a full-time position. So get out of your own way and just move forward.
It's awesome.
Claps and snaps for that. Terrance, I'm actually going to throw it back to you. You know, you're exuding confidence. And I think one of the things that interns are hoping for by getting that internship or apprenticeship is to get into the workplace and to start building some confidence in their skills. but how are we going to do this networking while some of these experiences are moving virtual? How are you going to facilitate some of that cross-team networking at JPMorgan Chase?
So we're going to do exactly what many of us are already doing in our personal lives. We're going to do some virtual outings. We're going to do some virtual, mixers, meet and greets and things like that, because that does build team. And when you can't physically, do a high five with somebody, but you can virtually high five, you can, tell jokes over, Zoom, or you can do, icebreakers and things of that nature. Someone talked, I think it was Vicki, talked about scavenger hunts and things like that. So we're going to get so creative in how to do this, but I would definitely encourage, the students on the call to just start practicing, right? Calling your friends and say, how does my lighting look? Do I look right in the camera? And do I look focused, right? And just getting comfortable and having practice doing it.
Excellent.
Amazing. And speaking of that, Ryan, you touched on this a little bit, like during this time that maybe you're stuck at home behind a computer for even longer, is how do you work on some of those soft skills? We have a couple of folks that wrote in that says, I get really nervous looking directly into the camera, and I feel as though that's going to affect me in my interview or my conversation or being able to talk to my manager. I'll throw that to Ryan, and others, please join in.
Thanks. I think, Terrance, you just said this, right? Call somebody and practice. I think that's the answer. What I would recommend people do is find a friend, get on Zoom together and practice. I literally said this to my kid this morning. He's like, are you just going to play that song over and over again? I play a little piano, and I said, yes, because what did I tell you? How do you get good at something? You do it over and over again. You don't quit. So I think literally practicing this stuff, as silly as that may sound, is one way to do that.
Awesome. Jen, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about returnships. People want to know really what does that mean, and how do you look for them, and what resources do SWE have to help with those, and companies that that are doing a good job to welcome back folks that have been away from the workplace for a while.
Well, thank you. It's my favorite topic. So return to work programs. We have about 30 plus companies we're working with. About 22 have programs up and running. If you go to reentry.swe.org and look on the internships page or return to work page, you'll see a list of companies, and you could check out what positions they're hiring for, what parts of the U.S., what parts of the world actually they're running these programs for. Usually the requirement is that you've had a 2-year career break. And you've done some engineering or technical work before you had that break. And we've seen returners that have had the 2 years, and we've seen successful returners that have had over 25 years returning back to the workforce. And there's a lot of things we're talking about today about this virtual work environment. I liked, Vicki, what you said about the home room. We always talk about the power of the cohort. So we work with companies together, and we're sharing best practices together, even if you're in the same business or your competitors. But how can we, work together and make this a real opportunity and bring these experts in engineering and tech back to work? And it's, for men and women, of course, I'm always going to talk about the women. And your break might have been a real break where you were taking care of kids or elder care or your own health. Or you might have gone into teaching and now you want to get back into a technical career and can't find a way back. So we have a lot of resources on that website. And again, I could talk about it forever, so I'm reining it in, but please let me know if I didn't answer your question.
And Mitali, I can jump in real quick just to talk a little bit about how we think of it. This is kind of from my viewpoint, and just I've been at Qualcomm quite a number of years, and I personally know women that have left the workforce for all the reasons that Jennifer said. And for whatever reason, women tend to immediately think that their skills are rusty or their skills just vanished and went completely away. Men tend to be a little bit more like, I'll figure it out. I just need to get in there. So our returnships are really meant to prove to the returners that all they need to do is get a little bit of a brush up on, maybe they were coding in a slightly different language. Coders are mostly coders. They can learn what we're doing and convince themselves more than convincing us that that they've got skills and that they can continue to contribute. So that for us, that's a difference with our returnships, and we're just over the last year starting to advertise returnships with the 2-year break. And our interns are much more a high majority of eligible interns we offer jobs to. So it is a big way for us to get new grads. So a lot of times they just have to go back to school and finish. But returnships, I think, is really, really interesting because it's really convincing the person that their skills are still relevant and they didn't forget everything they ever did just because they left the workforce for 2 years.
Awesome, thank you. I'm going to go into just, some more resources. I believe we were talking as a group that there's a Twitter handle at Hiring 2020. A lot of folks are asking for you all to kind of share your resources again. Terrance, people are asking about the coding boot camps that you mentioned, any other places. And just so you know, audience will be gathering all this information and getting it back to you. But another question along those lines of resources is, what about the folks that maybe are losing their internships for this summer? How do they stay in touch with the recruiters? And what would be a best practice to really kind of help with that relationship building in this crazy COVID times?
So one of the things that I would say in developing and maintaining those relationships with recruiters would be to, one, reach out to that person directly and just make sure that they would be fine with periodically checking in, but also just giving them some tangible highlights from what you've been working on over the summer. So whether it be building some skills in a particular, technology or programming language, that would be great to highlight them with, and just to show that you're continuously interested in maintaining that relationship over time. And of course, really understanding when is the next opportunity to apply for a role at that particular company.
Awesome. Brian, you wanted to say?
Yeah, just a quick tip for everyone. You can use a tool that I use called outreach.io. I think you have to pay for it, so you can figure out how to do this for free. But the idea is you have a series of steps to remind you to keep in touch with somebody. So the idea is just pick a list of people that you need to accomplish something with, whether that's you need to get a Zoom call with them or you need them to reply to an email, and create a series of steps. And just remember, the way to get people to do things is to give, support. And so find ways that you can support and give to them. And then at some point when you make an ask, they're more likely to say yes. So I would encourage you to do that with recruiters or people that you're trying to get an interview with. Secondly, there's a course on negotiation on Masterclass by Chris Voss. I believe you can watch it for free or parts of it. And he has this technique he teaches called mirroring. And mirroring is a powerful way to basically make people like you. And when you're trying to increase your kind of social IQ and education and emotional IQ, it's a good way just to accomplish more. So I'd encourage you to look at those two things.
Yeah, I would just add really quick, the ratio of a recruiter to the number of interns or prospective hires is, it's 1 to a lot. So don't just wait for the recruiter to reach out to you, as both Ryan and Terrance said. Don't be obnoxious, but find reasons to stay in touch. Maybe think of go to some of these sites and ask good questions, like, hey, maybe could I get connected with other potential interns that also didn't, maybe we can do something over the summer together. I mean, be creative and show that you're maybe you could ask if there's one of their lead engineers who could do just a virtual discussion with you and a bunch of others. So to think of creative and meaningful ways, and recruiters, I think, will really appreciate that, you pinging them, but don't get discouraged if they're not pinging you. Just be creative the other way around.
Amazing. Well, thank you, panelists. I'm going to throw it over to Brenda to close us out. Appreciate you all being here.
Yes, I just can't thank you enough. This has been an amazing discussion. I'm so grateful for your leadership, your great ideas and tips. I know that everyone listening has learned a lot and is much more encouraged about what they're going to do next. So in closing, I just want to share that I and AnitaB.org team are committed to keeping the conversation going during this period of great uncertainty. As such, we invite you to join our next conversation next Thursday, April 9 at 3 p.m., during which we will focus on small businesses and entrepreneurs. But join me, please, everyone, in thanking our panelists, Jennifer Scott, Terrance Bowman, Brian Carson, Vicki Mealer-Burke. Thank you so much for being with us. And we're just so grateful for your leadership and your partnership. Over to you, Robert.
Thanks, everybody. Again, echoing everyone's sentiment, really appreciate everything that you've done. Thanks for joining us. I'd also offer that obviously the mission really has to go on with donations. If you could just join us at AnitaB.org to learn more about what we're doing. As Brenda said, talking about last week's, as well as today's, as well as next week's in our series of webinars, how we're all surviving during this time of turmoil. Thanks again. Appreciate everyone joining from around the world. Stay safe, wash your hands, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Bye.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.